lovely to have you here on Instagram. You've been through Writers Camp, you've been through the Mastery Program. You're a professional writer by trade, and you're just overall badass, if I do say so myself. I'm always, I was telling my family the other day, I was like, shit, I'm just in awe of Michelle and what she does. Like, she's so good. So can you tell everybody who's jumping on, can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, yes, my goodness. What an introduction. So I am bright red now because I am like not only facing a camera, which I'm not used to, but also because that was a big compliment. Thank you. So I have been working as a copywriter for a little over a decade. I sometimes will say almost 2 decades, but then that just makes me sound a lot older. So over
a lot of experience though. It's so good.
And I've seen a lot of changes. I saw marketing before it was really digital, and then saw the transition into digital and how best practices have changed over these years. And so anyway, I do the copywriting. I do some content writing, which is just helping people bring value to their products and helping customers see that. And then I also am a ghostwriter, so I write books for other people, which is probably the part that tickles me the most, the part that I love the most. And the reason is because I'm helping people who have this incredible message and they need to get it out to the world, but they don't know how. They're not a writer. They have trouble getting stuck in the weeds. They are unorganized. And so I just help them find their voice and find their words. And so that's probably the most rewarding part of the job as far as writing goes.
Awesome. Yeah. And I can imagine some of the folks that, you work with probably don't, they have all these big ideas and they want to change the world and put their message in the world, but maybe they don't want to be a writer. And I just love that in our community. So many of us are just like, we want to write the same way we need to breathe. We need to write. So I love that too. And the fact that you can still do that for your clients, you can still help them have that feeling of impacting the world, getting a message across without them having to do the hard work that we really, can love to do, but, so it's really, really cool. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yes. I have my notes down here and then I thought I lost them. Okay. So you have actually gone through the Mastery Program twice now. What would you say were your biggest struggles and blocks pre our working together, pre jumping into the program?
Yeah. Well, when I first came to the program, I was having kind of an identity crisis because I do spend a lot of time helping other people find their voice and find their words and get their message out there. And I knew that I wanted to write for myself and have some writing time for me, but I was struggling with guilt because every time I would write for myself, I felt like, well, I really should just be writing for my client right now. And I also just didn't know how to find my own voice, which is such a weird thing because you do it for other people. But honestly, anytime you try to do something for yourself, it's 100 times different. And that's probably the biggest struggle I was having at the time, was that I wanted to separate my professional writing practice from my personal writing practice. And I wanted to create something that would be fruitful and rewarding and that would help me find my rhythm with my voice.
I love that. That's so true. And I can't tell you, we've been doing Writers Camp all of last week, and I had so many people tell me that exact thing. Like, yeah, I do copywriting or content writing, or I do this other, writing heavy work. And then when it's time for me to sit down, I feel guilty about it, or I feel like it's not important enough, or it's less important than, the work that actively puts food on the table. And I could say I have a whole diatribe about that situation, but I know that so many of our writers campers and folks in the LitHabits community can relate to you specifically on that. Like, oh, my creative writing is lower on the totem pole than my client work or my boss's work. So when we first chatted together, did you have any hesitations about jumping into the 7-week program?
Yeah, I had a lot.
Of course.
I mean, just coming in new because it's a program and because I didn't know you yet and I wasn't sure what I was going to get out of it. And I had my personal goals, but I also just kind of wanted to get better, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to invest my time in something that was going to be worthwhile and that would show results. And so I was concerned about whether I was getting into something that was just going to be a bunch of lectures, like a talking head. And I can say now that, you weren't just a bunch of pre-recorded lectures. It wasn't just a talking head. There's a lecture portion because you have to teach, but you really do teach. And that was so incredibly valuable. I think I had some hesitation because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to live up to the whole program. And I wanted to make sure that if I was going to dive in, I was going to dive in and absorb as much as I could. And I think once I got halfway through the course, I realized, wow, there's a lot to absorb here, because this isn't just Renee sharing information. This is Renee sharing science-backed, actionable stuff, and then helping you integrate it into your life and giving you the tools that you need, which is the sign of a true coach, right? A cheerleader will just be like, give me a P, productivity,
right?
And go do it. And and that's what a lot of coaches are, is they're really cheerleaders. And so I came in and I realized, wow, this is the real deal. I'm really going to buckle in and just do what I can to integrate all of this into my life. And then it was a huge benefit by the end. And we can talk about results, but it was definitely a huge benefit to find out that this is a real coaching program, and this is a real workshop, and this is deep information, not just some information that you're passing along, like a lot of pre-recorded classes will do, but this is actual work that we're doing together, and you're providing tools and helping me implement those tools, and we're troubleshooting. And I think that's just true value that I've not seen much of anywhere else.
Oh, Michelle, oh my gosh. And yeah, and my reasoning behind that, I've been a teacher for a long time, and what I've learned in many years of experience working with writers and teaching writers is that we're all different. We're all so different. And there is a buffet platter of strategies to overcoming fear, overcoming resistance, stopping procrastination, all of those things. But none of those strategies are going to work unless you're really, really in touch with who you are as a writer. And so that's why we always start at the bedrock. We always start with getting really, really intimate with knowing who you are as a human, knowing who you are as a writer, and how you work. And then we've got the buffet platter of strategies that you can choose from, that you can implement to actually get the results that you're looking for. So I love that you said that, because this is just validating for me, because I really want my students to see results. And sometimes, folks can get frustrated if it's not a clear-cut answer, but the answers are always within you. And then you choose from the buffet of strategies to work on. I love it. Okay. So what would you say is your proudest achievement after coming out of the program?
Oh my goodness. So, I'm pretty proud that I have developed a personal writing practice at all. And that I've been working on finding that voice and setting aside a time. Or something. Let's just. And it was a big deal, and it actually took a lot of work. And it wasn't just grit. It was that combination of muscles, because you can force yourself to sit down and try to work. But really making sure that you're checking in with yourself, and that you are giving yourself permission to write for yourself, and knowing when to say no, and working through all of those was just really important. I also found I had a couple surprises, like revelations, I guess, but one of them was that I was able to tap into flow more easily and be more creative on command, right? Which is really important for everyone. Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, it's incredibly important to be able to tap in when it's time to sit down and write, and to do the work when it's time. And so being able to tap into that flow and be more creative was this huge revelation that was incredibly helpful, not just for my private writing practice, but also for the professional side, being able to sit down and be more productive, even when there are distractions and I don't want to be, and my cat is on my lap, and my dog is on the block, and the laundry needs to get done, and all the things that pull you away from your at-home work life. And so that was a huge deal. And then I don't know if we're gonna answer this later, but I will just say that one of the other revelations that you're well aware of was that the world tells us that we are supposed to be morning people, and there are a lot of us who are morning people, and that's fantastic. My whole life I've been surrounded by morning people: my parents, my brother, my husband, my friends, all morning people. And so I was struggling to get up early in the morning and write, because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what everyone tells you to do, and to make sure that that I save the evening for, you know, time to unwind, when really I'm actually at my most productive. I'm a night person.
Yes.
And so getting some of that science-backed information rather than the people who are just like, well, it works for me, it'll work for you, and trying to give that advice, instead getting some of that scientific advice about your biology and your rhythms and how to work with them instead of against them. That was a huge win for both my productivity at work and my creativity, but also for my personal writing and knowing when to do the right tasks and when to strategize your workflow. And I just think that that was this incredible bonus that has been a complete overhaul for my life and for my work.
Absolutely. I think you're so right. And I think that's a missing piece for a lot of people, is that the world likes to tell us when you should write. You know, there's all these blogs out there that are like, get up at 4 a.m., which is awesome. And I've done that before when my body felt good to do that. But if you asked like you or any other night owl to get up at 4 a.m. and write, it would be a total disaster, because it's actually just misaligned with their body's natural rhythm. And again, going back to, we are all different. And so there's a buffet platter of ways to approach our writing practice, but we're not going to hit those marks if we're trying to approach it from someone else's writing practice, right? If we're trying to just reverse engineer someone else's writing practice. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot of writing advice out there that says, well, this is how I do it, so you should do it. And you know, like it's great to look at how other writers practice, and we actually do that in the workshop a lot. But that's the whole point, is to look at what others are doing, and then look inside and see, well, what's going to work for me, and what can I try to see if it'll work for me. So I love that you share that, because that is a big, I know I was talking to Crystal the other day, and that was a big light bulb moment for her as well. So I just love that. So what specific changes have you noticed? So you're talking about, you know, the chronotype, but have you noticed any other specific changes or any other like big wins that came out of what you learned in the program?
Well, gosh, there's so many. If there's any that you're thinking of, because I know you have memory for your students and what our wins were along the way. I know that I had days where, you know, you always look at the end of the day and you're like, well, what was my word count and what was my quality word count? And so I've had some really big high ticket days. And not just because you're working and that's always happy and everything, but it's not all about the money. I've had some really great productive high word count days. I had a couple 10,000 word days where I was just like, that's insane. Did I just, and I sat there and I reread it and I did my editing and everything. And I was like, this was okay. Like, this wasn't just me brainstorming and getting a bunch of words out. This was like,
wow,
work happening and quality thoughts, and it needs the editing because it's writing. But it was just having that productivity and some of those big wins. It was really intense. I also just kind of upped my game in general and was able to create more work for more of my high integrity clients, which is always what you want, because they're your favorite. And, you know, you want to create more value for them because you want to keep them. They're your high integrity clients. They're the ones that you want around because you believe in them and their company and their mission, and you like supporting that. You're not selling shampoo to bald people. So I just appreciated that it helped me with that. But also with finding my own voice, I've been able to produce a little bit more for myself, just a little ball of stuff that's mine. And along with producing something that's your own voice, you build that confidence and you go ahead and submit it places. And so I have a couple digital magazines that accepted something that's not just going to be under my name because I'm writing something for a company, but that's going to be under my name and it's my thoughts.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I put my phone down so I could like party stick, all of that. So good. That's amazing, Michelle. And I don't think I had heard that before, but that's incredible. Those are like, and of course, everything you were just saying, like our goal as writers, one of our goals as writers is to become published, right? We all, you know, for 99% of us, that is one of the end goals. But I think, and so that for you to have that win is like, that's like,
milestone.
But I think what's even more important is what you said earlier about how, I think, you know, we may not be able to articulate it as writers when we're asking ourselves, what do we really want? But I think when you said, you know, you were able to sit down and you had those high ticket word count days where you wrote 1,000, 10,000 words, 15,000 words. And it's not about the word count, but when you hit the period on that last sentence and you get up and you stretch and you realize you just had an incredible writing day, and then you can go sit and have wine with your partner or your kids or your dog or your cat and like actually feel like, oh my gosh, I accomplished something amazing today. That is what we're here for. Like that is, I think, what everybody, you know, when you say, what do you want as a writer? Sure, you might say, I want to be published under my own name and have a byline. But really we want that. We want those days where we're sitting at the computer or at our journal and the writing just flows. And then we come to that, you know, the alarm goes off and we're done and we hit our goals for that day. And then we can go be with our family without feeling like, oh, I'm such a failure. I'm so guilty. I'm so lazy. I'm so all of those. I'm so blah, blah, blah. And so I just love that you shared that. And then the fruit of that is getting published in journals and getting published with things under your name. So party sticks. I love it. So good. So amazing. So what would you say, you know, now that you've been through the program twice, what would you say to, would you recommend the program to other writers or your writer friends?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So absolutely. And I will just address the people who are listening right now, instead of Renee for just a couple of seconds. Other than my personal goals to have a more fruitful personal writing practice and to be more productive in my professional side and all the personal goals that come with that and the personal revelations, I would just say that this program brings so much more value than most programs, most workshops, most coaching programs, most classes. I said that I was worried about it being, you know, a set of pre-recorded lectures, which statistically most people don't finish. And a lot of those pre-recorded lectures show up with like a Facebook group where you crowdsource the answers to your questions or something. And I just don't think that has value. And that's not what this was. And that to me was really important. And the fact that you're not just a lecturer or a cheerleader, but that you really are a coach who's thoughtful and who cares and who really has the tools that you need to help us implement the tools that we need. And I think that's a really important distinction. And then I also just think that all of the information that you provide and all of the value that you share, it's very deep and it's science-backed, and you really get in there. You don't just have this, you know, 5-step system that made you a millionaire and everyone else can be too, just because this one person did it, or, you know, this highly generalized process that will just be applicable to everyone. Instead, you have these muscles that you've identified that are more than just observation and that you're helping other people implement into their practice. And I think that value that you bring throughout the entire program to every attendee, I think that is just, it's crucial, it's important, it's vital, it's the source, all the other things. But
Michelle, thank you. And that's honestly, that is my goal, is to bring people to exactly that. I would never want someone to feel like, oh, this didn't work for me. And of course, no program is right for everybody. If that were true, I'd be right for nobody. Like the program would be. There are, yeah, you do need to be open and ready to explore like exactly who you are, and then apply, you know, whatever strategies feel resonant to you. To, you know, you have to show up and do the work. Like you said, there's,
sure, right.
I think the reason, you know, and I love pre-recorded courses. When I feel like I need to learn something, I jump in there. But you're absolutely right that, you know, I have courses or books that, you know, I would have to go through myself, and I've never opened them. You know, I've never, and so yeah, exactly. To your point there, statistically, most folks don't complete those because they don't have somebody guiding them along the way, and they don't have somebody who knows them, who's speaking to them directly. So I love that you shared that as well. And can you also talk about, as our last thing, creating a more nourishing workspace, because I just love the evolution of your plants behind you, and I know that was part of a little bit part of your bedrock routine.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that? I just love it.
So our bedrock routine is just our our everyday routine, something that we build in that no matter what we can rely on, that will help us to reliably then slip into the process of writing. And it just helps us tap into flow and creativity that much better, and that much faster and that much more reliably. And so one of the things that I identified during this process was what is going to work for me, and that was to create a more nourishing workspace. This whole wall was just white. There was nothing there. There's nothing in here.
I remember, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so stark, and it wasn't helpful at all. I thought that it was free of distraction, but it turned out that it was really depressing. So what we did was Renee presented different types of authors and what they go through to get started, either to get started with their day or to get started with their writing practice, what their habits were like. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's right. This is a really depressing room. I don't know why I haven't, what is my problem? I haven't thought about this before. And so I ended up adding plants instead of pictures, and instead of decoration. I really wanted something that was alive and something that I could feed into by watering and taking care of it. And in that way, I'm taking care of my space, which is me taking care of my practice. That was just kind of how it extended itself. So we've got these plants over here, and that M, that's me for Michelle. And, we've got these and a couple little extras over there. And there's a few fake ones built in because it was like growing, and you kill a few and then you let a few live, but then you got to like fill in the gaps so it looks good in the background. So, but there's a lot that's alive here. And the best part is that my writing practice has really come alive. And I think that a large part of that is because of the discovery that your space really does matter in such an intense way. And it's been a part of me tapping into my flow every day, is sitting with my little plants.
Yes, so good. I love it. Oh my gosh. You every time we video chat and I see the plants behind you, I'm always like, man, we gotta get some plastic plants, because I am it's so sad. I'm a brown thumb, and I had one succulent, and I tried really hard to keep it alive, and I didn't, and I'll try again. But it's just, you always inspire me about with the plants, because I love them, and I love having like a lot of green space. And again, there's brain science behind green space, which we won't get into on the call, but you always inspire me with your lovely space. I absolutely love it. Oh, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today. I know your time is so precious. You have so many writing clients. There are so many ideal writing clients, and your own writing as well. So your time is so precious, and I appreciate you being here and sharing your thoughts with the LitHabits community and folks who are considering jumping into the mastery program. So doors are closing tomorrow. So if you want to join us for the mastery program, the URL is lithabits.com/enroll, and it's also in my bio, lithabits.com/enroll. You can also DM me or email me if you have more questions. I'm happy to jump on a phone call as well. So just lithabits.com/enroll. And if you enjoyed Michelle's wonderful results, if you're looking for days where you're just in flow, and maybe you hit 10,000 words and you can go and chillax with your family and feel amazing, then I hope you will join us for the program, because it's awesome and we have a great time with lots of party sticks. Yay. Thank you so much, Michelle. We'll talk so soon. It was so good to see you.
Thanks for having me. You guys, if you have any hesitation, make sure you get on a call with her. Honestly, I'm not getting paid. I really like it.
No paid endorsements. Awesome. All right. Love you, my friend. Talk to you soon. Bye.